What's up guys, Bryce here, and we're back at it again for another video. And in this video we have round 6 of 7 in the PCA Sim Racing Championship. It's been a little while, we are behind just a little bit. If you couldn't tell from the last video, I was a little bit sick, and I've still been kind of dealing with some colds. I've been kind of waiting till my voice gets a little bit better. But this race was not the best race, probably the worst qualifying we've had all season. We qualified P8. And didn't practice that much for this race. Had a lot of other things going on. So qualifying P8 is not really great, especially because in this race specifically, if we got on the podium, we win the championship. And we finally get underway, and Willow Springs is one of those tracks where definitely not my favorite track at all in iRacing or in racing in general, but it turned out to be kind of fun. It ended up being a fun race. We got 2 positions at the start, kind of just snuck my way through, and now we are already up into P5. And yeah, this track is very old school. It has a lot of bumps. It is very difficult, and as you can tell from my qualifying performance, definitely wasn't a strong kind of track of mine. I was really off the pace in quali. I kind of found a bit of pace towards the end of the race, and you'll see kind of what happens as we go through the race here. So yeah, if I finish on the podium, we win the championship, which didn't really expect to be in championship winning position. Even at the very start of the season, I thought it was going to be a very tough championship, and it definitely was. But from P8 all the way to a podium position was going to be very tricky and difficult, but we're just doing the best we can. And you can see the top 4, we can see the podium right there. And really, I'm kind of, throughout this whole season, I was playing the long game. Of course, I want to win these races and just do the best that I can, just extract everything. But even if we don't come on the podium this race, I think as long as we basically finish the rest of the races, we win the championship at this point, which you'll see what happens. We had a really strong race in Bathurst. If there are 2 races this season that I wanted to win, it would have been Bathurst and Monza. And you can see we are all over the rear bumper of P4 of Logan Grado. We're just literally trying everything to get past. We don't have the outright raw pace, but what I found in my own driving personally is that on cold tires at the very start of the race, I kind of drive a bit more aggressively, which might be a bad thing because it can harm the tires later in the stint. But I just seem to have a lot more pace at the start compared to the others, maybe just because I'm not exactly nursing my tires as much as I really should be. But the problem about fighting with P4 and not getting past them is you can see the top 3 are slowly pulling away. And Derek Cyphers in P1 is our current rival in the championship, so it's not good that we're in P5 and he's in P1. There is a drop week, so that is helpful, because if we don't do well, this would be my drop week, because the worst position that I've had so far is P4. So you can see we're trying everything. We move to the outside, try to cut back on the inside, but there's no real hard braking zones on this track besides this corner coming up here. This is a pretty decently hard braking zone, but then it goes right up the hill. So if you do make a move like we might do here, just kind of sticking the nose in, it's so easy to kind of not go fully side by side. And the last thing I need is a little spin or a little incident. But this track ended up being kind of fun. It has some fast corners. This last sector is sketchy. The back end gets light here, just trying the best you can to keep it flat out, to keep it pinned. And then the last 2 corners are right-handers. And if you're a racer or you've raced this track, which I assume most of the people watching are, you'll notice something, in that there's no brake markers or really any reference points on the track besides that cone on the last corner. And we go a little wide here, just using all the track we can, even if we're going into the dirt. But there's no reference points. So I'm basically using some of the marks in the road as reference points, going by feel. But especially in this first sector here, there's really not a reference point for the braking turn in. The apex, if you look all the way on the right hand side of the screen, that little fire station where it says the turn on it, that is kind of like my late apex marker. But besides that, there really isn't a lot. So that's another thing that made this track very difficult, where let's just say other tracks like Monza, you know where to brake. There's brake markers. You kind of pick your spot, where this is like you're going on feel, and it takes a lot more practice to really dial everything in, which is something I did not do. As you can see from this kind of battle we're having here, I'm just stuck. I just have no pace. I'm just, yeah, kind of a sitting duck at this point. But it's just frustrating when you're sitting behind, because you can see the leaders are starting to pull a bit of a gap. And I think I did end up passing P4 in the next couple of laps, which is kind of what we are waiting for here. But just a quick little update. We have a lot of content coming for 2025. A lot of cool things coming soon, which you will see. I'm just kind of wrapping up 2024. Been busy with a lot of personal stuff. Christmas is right around the corner at the time of recording this video, so I'm going to try to get out all of the highlights for this season 12 before the end of 2025, and then we literally have season 13 coming up, which I will be doing as well. And I'll be doing a lot more races with Hyperion Racing Team, which is the racing team that I am currently on, the esports team. The livery is from them, so hoping to do a lot more events with them in 2025 to kind of help support the team, because I haven't really done any races with them, with the team specifically, except for the Nürburgring 24-hour, which I believe was about it. So I'm planning to do more races with them. Obviously, we are supporting them and partnering with them for PCA, but it's not a team series, so kind of just rocking solo. But of course, you know, showcasing the livery on the car, which is a great looking livery, the nice blue with the black and kind of that red pink color. But back to Willow Springs, we get a pretty good run out the last corner, but it's just not enough. Like, we'll get a good run, we start gaining, we make a little jink to the inside, see if he'll make a mistake or go wide of the apex. And there were times where he slightly did here. You can see just ever so slightly we get a little closer, and then we'll try to make a move for the inside, but again, we're not just going to throw it in there. Yeah, if I do have one strength, it's just not making risky moves like that. I say that, and you'll see here, I think this is the lap where I did it. We just send it up the inside. We get side by side, a little bit of door banging, and we just can't exactly get the move done. And again, we're still sitting behind. That could have been bad. It could have ended badly, but you kind of have to make those calculated overtake attempts where you stick it up the inside, but you just hold the inside line there. Again, not a hard braking zone, so it's like we'll get the nose in, but there's just not enough braking distance to kind of just come off the brakes and go up the inside. And especially because that corner, it goes from a left to a right, so pretty much had no chance. But we're gaining more, and I think here we start to find a bit more pace kind of as the tires got into their working window. You can see we're much closer here on the start straight. We're going to get the slipstream, and look at the slipstream and the speed advantage we get. We're going to go up the inside, side by side before the apex, and we get the move done. And now we're up into P4, and we have 50 minutes left. So P4, and we have a pretty big gap to close, about 1.3 seconds behind Lions. So basically from this point on, it's just trying to put in quali laps, even though my quali lap is P8 pace. So it's putting in the best laps that I can, and yeah, we'll see how close we can get within the next 10 or 15 laps. So we are on lap 12, and we are at the 43-minute mark, and you can see we've closed the gap a little bit to Lions in front. And yeah, just still putting in laps, still trying to just do everything we can to close the gap. And you will see what happens here. Going up through the left-hander, and a little spin there. Unfortunately, ended his race a little bit early, at least in the podium position. And we are up into P3. Up into P3 in this race. And now we have an even bigger gap to close now that we've moved up here. It's about 4 seconds, and you can see up the road is Cyphers and Kerry Brooks. So we have a pretty big gap to close. At this position currently, if we finish in P3, we do win the championship. But It ended up not being as simple and straightforward as that, though. Lap 31, there's a lot of laps in this race because the track is quite short. And this is the lap where we are going to pit for the single stop. So first stint went pretty well. And one thing that I am terrible at is calculating fuel. It's something that I've had a struggle with last season and this season. I've finally kind of got it all figured out towards the end, but it's, yeah, calculating fuel. And I've also figured out that I'm actually using a bit more fuel than the average driver, just because my overlap between my throttle and my brake is a little too much, which is something that I've just found out recently, which has taken quite a while to figure out why this was happening. Looking at data for quite a while to figure out why am I using more fuel than everyone else. So that's something I have to fix for next season. But hopefully once we iron that out, it'll be good. And you kind of see how that affects everything here. So we're in P2. And you can see Brooks stays out, which means that he's essentially extended his stop there. So we're going to go into the pits and pit for fuel. And we're going to come out the pits. And you can see we are currently in P12 when we come out. So we have to pass a few cars to see where we will end up in the actual standings. So we come back around lap 33, and you can see in front of us is not P1 and P2. We are actually now in P5, and we've come out behind Thomas Briggs, and Kerry Brooks is in P3. So yeah, we've actually lost 2 spots in the pits. So that's how you can tell that my pit strategy is not really that great. So it needs to be improved, definitely, because we lost 2 spots in the pits. So now we have 2 more cars to pass. So we went from P8, not really feeling good about the race, to P4, then P3, championship winning position, and then we just do a pit stop, and now we're back in P5. So bit of a roller coaster of a race. At this point I was like, P3 looks so far up the road. We have 15 minutes remaining in the race. This is going to be such a difficult task to climb back up to P3. Of course, I was pushing as hard as I could, but at the same time, I didn't have the same pace as I did towards the beginning of the race, just due to the fact that we got 15 minutes, and it was kind of frustrating going from P3 to P5. So this kind of would have looked like, from my point of view, if we had the race. And you can see we have another car coming in there, which is a back marker. It's actually Logan Grado. So he was the car that we passed at the very start of the race, and now he is 2 cars in front of us. So definitely there was a lot of data to be looked at and analysis after this race to see how that happened. Because yeah, that was pretty frustrating. All right, so this is the last lap of the race, lap 48, I believe. Yes, lap 48. So last lap of the race, lap 48 of 48. No minutes left on the clock, and you can see the gap opened up to P4 by 5 seconds. So kind of after the pit stop phase, I was pushing my tires a little bit too much. I was overdriving the car. I was really just trying to climb back up, but once the tires kind of reach that kind of their optimal window, you start to overheat them, and then you kind of just lose too much pace, which is what happened. And to be fair, I didn't practice that much, so I wasn't able to just maintain the pace. Like, there's one thing to do, 10 laps and be quick. There's another thing to do a whole race stint on full fuel and then basically do it again. So kind of just let the gap open up a little bit, and I kind of accepted I was going to be taking home P5 to do the pit stop. And to be fair, everyone else was really quick. Like, there's some tracks where I can say that I feel more comfortable at, and I'm like, okay, like I can just do the best that I can. And then there's other tracks where it's like I do the best I can, and it's still just not enough. This is kind of one of them. Another one was Summit Point, and you can see we're even running out of fuel as we come across the line. So just barely enough to finish the race. That was a back marker. But yeah, that's going to be the race at Willow Springs. So We got one race to go, which is Monza. So at this point here, I was kind of frustrated with myself that I didn't do as good as I wanted for Willow Springs. So I kind of wanted to come back stronger at Monza, which you will see the result at Monza, which ended up being the best result of the season. But P5, Willow Springs. Hope everyone enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below. Really excited for next season as well in 2025. But stay tuned for Monza, which will be coming out before the end of the year. But thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video, guys. Bye-bye.